What if I told you that the PlayStation 5 has already surpassed one of the most influential and successful consoles in gaming history, not in lifetime sales, but when you compare both systems at the same point in their life cycles? That console is the Xbox 360, a system many people still point to as the gold standard of modern console success. Today, we're going to break down how the PS5 managed to outsell the Xbox 360 in the same amount of time on the market, why that's such a big deal, and what it tells us about the current state of the gaming industry. To understand why this milestone matters, you have to understand just how massive the Xbox 360 era was. When it launched, it hit the market at exactly the right time. Online console gaming was exploding in popularity, Xbox Live was leagues ahead of the competition, and the 360 built a reputation as the place to play shooters, sports games, and multiplayer experiences. Titles like Halo 3, Gears of War, Call of Duty, and Mass Effect helped define an entire generation. In North America especially, the Xbox 360 wasn't just competitive, it was dominant for years. By the end of its life, it sold over 80 million units worldwide, which is an incredible number by any standard. That's why comparing the PlayStation 5 on the Xbox 360 isn't some random statistic. It's a comparison to a console that thrived during a much simpler time for the gaming market. The Xbox 360 era existed before massive digital libraries, before cloud gaming, before subscription services competed with full price game sales, and before PC gaming became as mainstream and accessible as it is today. Back then, if you wanted the best experience, you bought a console, bought physical games, and that was that. The competition for players' time and money was far less intense. Now look at the environment the PlayStation 5 launched into. The PS5 released during a global pandemic which disrupted manufacturing, shipping, and retail availability for years. For a long time, people didn't even have the option to buy one at retail. On top of that, inflation and rising costs led to price increases rather than the traditional mid generation price drop that we've seen in the past. Despite all of this, the PS5 continued to sell at an incredible pace, often selling out instantly whenever new stock became available. When you line up the numbers and compare both consoles year by year instead of looking at final totals, that's where things get really interesting. At the same point in their life cycles, the PlayStation 5 had already moved more units than the Xbox 360 had. This means that PS5 isn't just doing well by modern standards, it's outperforming one of the most successful consoles of all time under far more difficult circumstances. That alone says a lot about Sony's position in the market. One of the biggest reasons for this success is software. Sony has continued to prove that strong, high quality exclusives still matter. Games like Spider Man, God of War, Horizon, Final Fantasy, and The Last of Us give people a clear reason to buy a PlayStation instead of waiting or switching platforms. These aren't just good games, they're cultural events that drive console sales in a way few other titles can. Even players who primarily game on PC or another platform often pick up a PS5 just to experience these releases. Another factor is brand loyalty built over decades. Sony has spent multiple generations establishing PlayStation as the home of cinematic single player experiences alongside strong third party support. When the PS5 launched, many players didn't need convincing. They already trusted the platform, already had digital libraries tied to their accounts, and already knew where their friends were playing. That momentum carried forward even when supply was limited. It's also important to talk about how the market itself has changed. The PlayStation 5 is competing not just with Xbox, but with gaming PCs, handheld PCs, mobile gaming, and subscription services that promise hundreds of games for a monthly fee. Attention spans are shorter, entertainment options are endless, and games themselves take longer to finish. The fact that the PS5 is still selling faster than the Xbox 360 did in a less crowded market makes this achievement even more impressive. Now, this isn't about dunking on Xbox. The Xbox 360 was a massive success, and Microsoft's strategy today is completely different from what it was back then. Xbox is no longer focused solely on hardware sales. Instead, it's all about ecosystems, Game Pass, PC integration, and cloud gaming. The Xbox Series consoles don't need to outsell PlayStation to be successful under that model. Microsoft is playing a longer, broader game, and hardware sales are just one piece of that puzzle. But from a pure hardware perspective, the numbers don't lie. The PlayStation 5 outselling the Xbox 360 at the same point in time proves that traditional consoles are still incredibly relevant. It proves that people are still willing to buy dedicated gaming hardware when the value is clear and the software is strong. And it suggests that the PS5 could end up being one of the best selling consoles of all time by the time the generation wraps up. Looking ahead, this milestone raises an interesting question. If the PlayStation 5 has already cleared this bar while facing supply shortages, price increases, and fierce competition, what happens as those obstacles continue to fade? As more exclusives release, as the install base grows, as the generation hits its stride, the PS5's final numbers could be truly staggering. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want to see more gaming news, analysis, and deep dives like this, make sure to give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any future uploads. Your support helps the channel grow, and it lets me know you want more content like this. Game on.